these days. They're going to scratch somebody, if not scratch yourself, and you're going to bleed. Every choice we make has a consequence that comes with it. As 21st century Armenians in Southern California or anywhere in the US or in the modern world, it's amazing what's at our disposal. I came to this country with $81 in my pocket. That is all the money I had in my pocket. When I came to Los Angeles, I didn't even have that much. I had worked at a movie theater in Philadelphia as a janitor on the weekends, saving what I could save, and made myself out in Los Angeles. I lived at a bus stop for a month practically as a homeless person, and I was barely 18 years old. From there, I made it into a partnership that 20 plus years ago was showing $1 million plus revenue each and every year for 4 years consecutively. Then I lost it all. Then I got it back and then some. But throughout the process, what did I learn? I learned how much money we don't need to live a happy life. Well, why do I share that lesson with you? Because what I have seen in my practicing law and in me being out there to the degree that I'm able to and be active in the community, I have seen that we are a community obsessed with material things. I have seen that we will get that $100,000 Mercedes and lease it for our son or daughter, or for ourselves, even if we're living in an apartment or don't have a pot to piss in, because we cannot be outdone by anybody else. When my clients who are 20-some years old come to my office and they're driving cars better than mine, I know they're up to no good. Unless their parents are filthy rich, in which case they are filthy stupid to be handing their kids such valuable objects and vehicles and everything you can think of. There's something to be said for being self-made. Because when you're self-made, you may be unmade, and in my case, unmade by your own devices, but at least you know how to make yourself back up, get back on your own feet again. But if somebody has handed it to you all through your life, and that somebody is no longer around to give it to you, or you lose it and they don't have anything else to give it to you, where do you go from there? What I want to say to the young members of the crowd here is the following. I never got drunk, never got high, never got wasted, never got stoned, never got loaded until I was 32 years old, approximately 32 years old. Had I done what I see teenagers do now, first of all, I would not have gotten what I'd gotten. I would not have gotten the education. I would not have gotten the license to practice law, and despite the fact that I resigned my license to practice law to get my life back in order again, and then I went back and got it again, one thing that I always possessed was the vast knowledge, the can opener known as a law degree, with which I would never start. I would eventually be able to open can after can after can and feed myself, feed those who are looking for me to feed them, and spread what became plenty after a while. If you do what you do at your early years and you wake up one morning, in my case it was 7 months of hell every day, but those who I have come across in the halls of recovery over the years, theirs is a lifetime struggle that has started early on, because a friend suggested it would be cool to smoke a joint, or another friend suggested pop a pill and it's a great ride you're going to be on. You don't have anything to draw back on. You know, when you go back and you say, let me get my life in order, well, you have no blueprint. You don't know what it took to get anywhere because you never really got anywhere. You were basically a pothead or a stoner or whatever. It's critical, just as critical as planting a new tree. That, you know, sometimes you look at these gardens and people have a piece of wood and they've tied the tree to that wood so that the tree goes up straight instead of crooked. It's critical that the formidable years of our youth are guided and directed. And you know, First Amendment is a wonderful, wonderful concept in the Constitution, but it's designed to keep government from depriving us of those rights. It's not designed to keep parents from depriving their children of those rights. I'm a parent, and I strongly urge you to take away your children's First Amendment rights. Take them away, not entirely, but ration them away somewhat. Who they associate with, what are the things that they are interested in expressing, ought to be monitored closely, because there is such a thing as fighting words. Fighting words is not a protected speech under the United States Constitution. So by the same token, if your kid's going to go out and challenge someone to a fight, well, guess what? Either Glendale PD or whatever jurisdiction that fight is going to happen in, your kid's going to get arrested. And your kid can get arrested, and the smallest little incident where he or she did not want to back down and wanted to maintain his or her pride can result in anything from a misdemeanor. What does misdemeanor means? Behaving in an improper way, a lower level offense, crime, which carries up to a 1 year in jail punishment in some of those cases, all the way to a felony, because if you hit somebody and something goes wrong and they suffer some serious injury, the next thing you know, you're going to get a prosecutor who's going to file a case against you in court where the prosecutor is going to say, you assaulted someone and you had the intention to inflict great bodily injury, which, by the way, can be charged as a strike offense. You know, you must have heard 3 strikes, you get 25 years to life. Well, that would be considered 1 strike. So, cooler heads prevail. But where do cooler heads prevail begin? You know, it's good. I send my kid to Homenetmen. Well, they're not going to raise my kid. It's good. They can maintain, they can influence, they can give it some structure. But I have to raise my children. I have to raise my children at home. I have to take some responsibility. And there needs to be some balance. You know, I'm mindful of the fact that in today's economy, Armenian parents, perhaps a large number of them, have both parents working, so they're trying to make ends meet. Things are rough, but there has to be some balance. There has to be some sacrifices in terms of economic growth versus individual children's upbringing. Without it, the so-called Armenian youth identity, it will be a non-sequitur. It will be a non-issue 50 years from now. It will be a non-issue. There are plenty of wonderful things in American culture. We ought to integrate, assimilate, and benefit from those. But those who forget where they came from are not going far. They never will go far. It's the same for our identity. I recall when I first came out here, all I wanted to do was go find some Armenian club and find some Armenian center, a getron, to give me some guidance. Unfortunately, I was not successful. So I went about my way, and I did pretty well. And in fact, the person that was a conduit who aided me in my demise, who I allowed him to bring me down, if you will, or allow me to move away from my path, was a childhood friend of mine. A childhood friend of mine who came from Lebanon and befriended me, and then off we went. It is very important to know where your children are going. And as for the teenagers, it's very important for you to know where you're going. Just a couple of months ago on my street, a quiet hillside street in Glendale where I live, I was coming home with my wife from dinner around midnight, and she was driving, and because I was tired, I was sitting in the passenger seat. We pulled into the driveway, and next thing I hear is a huge commotion. 50, 60 Armenian-speaking young folks just came pouring out of a house 2 doors down. And there was screaming back and forth, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you, I will butcher you, I will cut your throat, I will do this, I will do that. And in that commotion, somebody was stabbed in the heart, survived, but just nicked the heart. And of course, I took it upon myself to find out more and more about that situation. And that situation was a party where the adults had been out of town, and the teenagers had held a party and invited their friends, and their friends invited their friends, and then some people crashed the party. And someone who was trying to keep the people that crashed the party from being too unruly got stabbed. Somebody came from the back and just reached over and just stabbed him several times. A good kid got stabbed. So it's not about, you know, my kid is a good kid, nothing will happen. I'm a good guy, nothing will happen to me. You have to be mindful of the company you keep and the places you go and the things that you surround yourself with. I always, in the past, when I've spoken to groups of younger people and not really adults mixed in, I give an example that I've come up with about, you know, if you and I are walking down the street, and you know, I really like these huge garbage, these dumpsters that people put their garbage in, business establishments, because I think of all the things that I could have picked up when I was homeless. And I say, you know, what if we saw our friend inside this garbage can, and he's inviting us in. He's like, come on in, it's great in here. And we get close enough to the garbage can, and we can smell the stink of the garbage. It smells horrible. But if we are tempted, even just once, to dive into that dumpster, the stench is going to be bad. But if we say, well, let's stay a few minutes, I assure you, 20 minutes later, when somebody else is walking down that alley, we're going to be inviting them into that dumpster because that smell is no longer going to be bothering us. We will have gotten used to it. It becomes the norm. It is the same way when people say, well, I just want to try it once. Well, you know, my son, my daughter, you know, he was disrespectful, he was rude, he lied to the police, he cheated, he did this, he took a shortcut in a project. I'm going to let it slide. No, because it builds character, or in this case, it builds defective character traits that stays with the person. And as the person grows, the person does not know the meaning of hard work equals good results. I could talk forever, but I don't know about my time frame, so I'm going to take a look and see if there was anything I wanted to talk about that I did not mention. Let's see. Oh yeah. I really encourage adults, parents, or even young adults or teenagers to not be critical of another person's choices. You know, no two people are alike. And there's no such thing as a right choice versus a wrong choice when it comes to interests. Interests in life is what makes society complete. I may have an interest in law. Sergeant Tomazikian has interest in law enforcement. Mr. Kasatkin has an interest in administration, in the city clerk's office. Mr. Hamparian has his interest in a wide range of political and related matters. There's nothing wrong with those things. And somebody else may want to become a basketball player. Another person may want to become an actor. Well, I don't know about being an actor. So, but in a general sense, you know, we have a tendency to want to dictate to our children, want to dictate to our younger brothers and sisters what we think they ought to be doing, what we think they ought to become. Well, what that does is that is the first step in breaking down communication.